sea captain.
That should only help with the
Well,
designated
yeah.
assistant.
She
in
floats
Three
around.
Falls.
She's anywhere,
Yeah.
but she can live stream most of the
She's a
time.
sea captain.
Okay, starting in a moment here, folks. What does this say?
Ocean. Ocean.
We're on.
Ah,
Open
close
ocean
for people.
Oh,
Yeah, on these people's yachts, that sort of thing.
there we go.
Sailboats mostly, yeah.
Wow.
And her preferred area is the Virgin Islands. So,
I would
Such a
never
word.
have expected that answer to that question.
but she also, like, she can take.
Okay.
Okay.
Howdy, howdy. Howdy, welcome, YouTube friends. This is a good time to double check our phones, make sure our phones are off. I'm gonna check my light. So that, okay. How do I look?
Center.
Good. So, this is our last session of the year because we've got Christmas coming up, New Year's coming up. Our next session will be back to Tuesday evenings. It will be on New Year's Day evening, Tuesday, January 1st. As Yatha and I were going through the calendar scheduling, we said, will people show up on New Year's Day evening? We'll see. Might be, I think, just the perfect way to start the new year. Good, okay. We also have a retreat coming up. We do day-long retreats here 4 times a year, once a season, and looks like it will be Sunday, February 10th. And last time, if you were here last time, I mentioned about a co-teacher who was going to be doing it with me. That's not going to happen now. We decided we're going to postpone that until the weather gets more reliable, because this stuff she's going to have us doing would be great to be doing out on the lawn. Although we're getting some pretty warm December days here. So that will happen later down the road in the new year. But I'll be sending out a notice sometime in the next day or two for the retreat, the day long on February 10th. Okay, and all the details will be on that. And by the way, Ira, is it? Yeah, if you're interested in getting these alerts, we have an email list here that you could sign up for.
I live back east.
Oh, okay. I have a different list for that. I have my global list, which just gets hit a couple of times a year for. Where back east, right?
I live in Annapolis, Maryland,
Ah,
but I have a place out here too, and I'm out here, I have grandchildren here, that sort of thing.
cool. And actually, I will be, YouTube friends, I'm going to be in Roselle Park, New Jersey this Sunday morning, 9 to 11 a.m. It's a free meditation discussion session at Aikido Schools of New Jersey, and if you check my website, all the information's there. So come on down. Okay? Okay. So, let's start this evening with what? Any suggestions? Requests? Greatest hits? Let's start. Let's start with some descending fifths. I just love this. Okay. Okay, so take a deep breath. Okay, if you want to do this at home, just remember the opening of the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, or if you're from south of the Mason-Dixon line, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Or if you want to stay apolitical, Flintstones, meet the the descending fifth, which for reasons that we don't need to get into right now, is the essentially musically and in terms of its resonance in the nervous system, it's going from the point of maximum suspension, maximum tension into maximum relaxation, maximum letting go. And we can do it with various vowel sounds. Ah, if you're going to do one, ah is the most kind of opening sound. So as we do the high note, and when you do this at home, look for, you can fool around with it and find what is the lowest you can do this so that on the second note, you're still singing it comfortably at full volume. Okay? So as we're doing it on that higher note, you can have the feeling of it's like something suspended, like a little droplet or something suspended in the air. And then as you swoop down, you melt down into that lower note. It's like that little droplet that's been, kind of defying gravity, staying suspended. Oh, that takes a lot of work to stay suspended. And then as it melts down, you kind of surrenders to gravity and then gratefully surrenders into melts into the warm ocean that just extends out beyond the horizons. Something like that. That's what it feels like to me. Okay, so.
Do you want us to explore higher pitches? That's
d-
not
does-
hard for me.
Does this pitch work for you?
I go higher.
This key? Yeah. Well, at home, here together, we pretty much have to compromise on a
I
key.
was just
But
wondering what you were.
yeah, so at home, is this so? Let me do it a little higher because I'm a baritone. So let's do it from there. Okay. So take a deep breath. And again, you hold that lower note as long as you can comfortably, just with the idea of just melting out 360 degrees in all directions. And again, breathing in. And again. Okay. So that was the hard part. Now just sitting back with the eyes closed, sitting back comfortably in your seat. And just noticing what our experience is all by itself, without our bringing anything to it, without our trying to manipulate our experience. What naturally arises on we could say on the screen of our awareness. Of course, there's the five senses. So, hearing arises. You hear sounds of people rustling around in the room, occasionally some traffic sound or airplane sound from outside. So there's hearing, there's seeing, even with the eyes closed. There's some subtle colors dancing behind the eyelids. There's feeling, whatever sensations are there, feeling warm or cool, tense or relaxed. Maybe you happen to notice the pressure of your back or your butt against the seat. Just whatever's there. But notice that there's no effort involved in experiencing any of this. It all just arises by itself. There's no effort, and there's no control. Can you decide what will be the next sound you hear? Nope. So we may as well just give up. Just surrender. Like that grateful little drop surrendering into the warm ocean. Just surrendering into the ease of experience as it arises by itself, moment after moment. Sounds come and go, colors come and go, sensations come and go. And also thoughts and feelings come and go. No matter what the thoughts are about, no matter what the feelings are, doesn't matter. There's nothing special about thoughts and feelings. They're just like sounds and colors. Just more stuff coming and going on this screen of awareness. And we don't have to especially even take note of what the stuff is. It's just some stuff. It's fine, whatever it is. You just settle into the screen. And the screen is awareness. Everything else is the stuff we're aware of, which comes and goes beyond our control. The awareness itself, notice that the awareness itself is the one thing that does not come and go. You're aware now. You're aware now. So we can rest in this fact of awareness. This, we could say, open space, this aware open space, within which all the specific experiences come and go. Not trying to concentrate or focus on anything. Not trying to push away thoughts or anything else. Not trying to feel some special way. Not trying to meditate, whatever the heck that means. It's all way too complicated and artificial. Just this natural, stupid, simple relaxing. Just letting go, relaxing our grip and relaxing into this open space of awareness. That's all. Whatever's coming and going in that space, it's not our business. We're not driving. Notice that anything that comes along is just one more thing we're aware of, one more blip on the screen of awareness. It belongs there. It's part of the movie, we could say. So nothing that comes along can possibly be a problem or a so-called distraction. If there's a feeling of tranquility or happiness, fine, that's one feeling. If there's a feeling of restlessness or sadness or whatever, confusion, that's another feeling. Doesn't matter. They're all equal, just different blips, different colors, so to speak. The screen is equally open and welcoming and neutral about whatever comes along. If an itch comes along, fine. You can itch and then you can scratch it. If you got a leg cramp, you can shift your legs. If you fall asleep, it's one more experience. You'll wake up. It's all good. It's all part of the greatest show on earth. It's called present experience. It's the only show on earth.
So shut up.
At any point, if you find yourself struggling with a feeling or a thought, or resisting it or holding on to it, don't try to resolve it or push it away. Just relax your grip on it. Relax your grip on it and relax back into yourself. Relax back into this free, open, empty screen of awareness. And notice that the screen is not affected by anything in the movie. If there's a movie about a fire, the screen doesn't burn. If there's a movie about a lovely waterfall, the screen doesn't get wet. So no experience that comes along can damage or improve this awareness, which is always open and empty, even when it's full of stuff. Always free. Everything moves through it frictionlessly. And there's nothing to do but relax back into that.
So be quiet.
you might notice that anything that comes along, whether it's a thought, a sound, an emotion, anything, kind of comes, emerges out of the silence, the emptiness of this awareness. And that happens without any effort from you. And then after a while it melts back into that silence, that emptiness of awareness. Also without any effort from you. While it's there, it might seem like a big deal or something you need to deal with, but it's not. It all comes and goes on its own. It's all fine. No matter what comes along, there's nothing for us to do but rest as that open space, rest as that welcoming, space-like, sky-like, free, open awareness that we always already are.
Shh.
Now at some point, when I ring the bell to end the meditation, whenever that happens, is there something you're going to stop doing? Take a look, check that out. Just, is there subtly something that you're kind of maintaining, that when you hear the bell, you're going to drop it? And if so, drop it now. There's some subtle effort to somehow be meditating. Just drop it now. And just hang out in the empty space, the free space that remains when you drop that, when you drop everything. And throw everything into the fire. Okay, now keep the eyes closed and take a few minutes to slowly bring the body back to a more active state. So you might feel like stretching, moving around a little. And after a couple, 2-3 minutes, when the body feels ready, you can slowly open the eyes. You take your time.
That really helped a lot.
Good. Okay, we'll talk in just a second.
Oh, sorry, Dean.
Yeah. And if you're still opening your eyes, that's fine. Take as much time as you need. Okay, how are we doing? How's everybody? Good. So, everyone notice some settling takes place, sometimes dramatic, sometimes subtle, and it happens all by itself. What can we do to make settling happen? We can't. Anything we try to do is going, by definition, is going to be a form of unsettling. Any effort we make to create a non-agitated state of mind is itself a form of agitation. This is called trying to meditate. So, right, it's the great catch-22 of meditation then. A whole lot of man and woman hours being spent every week all over the world by people trying to meditate, chasing their tails. So, I consider myself very fortunate that I've had some wonderful teachers who've pointed to the way out of that catch-22, which is just ridiculously simple, which is why it goes overlooked so much of the time. Just notice, oh, okay, I'm aware. Awareness is of all the phenomena within awareness going on by itself, nothing I can do about it, just let go. Just be, just surrender into it. And just rest as awareness. Those 3 words, that's the whole shooting match, the whole ball of wax, there must be some more cliches here. The whole kit and caboodle. Just rest. Notice that you're aware, or even more profoundly, that you are awareness. Really, you are this space within which all the phenomena of the senses, the mind, the emotions come and go. You are that screen, you are that space. And just rest as that, abide as that. And the rest takes care of itself. Just knowing that it takes care of itself that you're really, really, really unemployed with this thing. Really on vacation. As a great man once said, school is out forever. And it takes care of itself. How are you doing? You saying that helps? That helped?
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you're doing great. I just, and I know we talked about this last time. I don't know if you're aware of how much, because when you first started coming here, you couldn't sit still. You couldn't close your eyes, and you're doing that now. And you know, I really feel that this, you know, you just keep hanging in there. It's working.
It worked that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And notice it worked. 'Cause
If you just
don't work.
silence your mind, you just silence your thoughts, silence your mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Relieve the stress and get rid of the worry and just silence yourself.
yeah. And I think really it'll get clearer and clearer to you that it's not even that you need to silence it. It's just that it settles down into silence. You know, there's an old story about a guy who he needs some water to drink or cook or something, and he goes to the river with his bowl and he brings back some water from the river or from the stream, and he gets it home. He says, "Oh, this water's cloudy. That's no good. So I'll try stirring it up." "No, that just makes it worse." Okay, I'll try, I don't know, try to pick out all the little bits of mud." "No, I can't do that." And, you know, I try shaking it. "No, that doesn't help." So finally he just gives up. He gives up and he just leaves the bowl sitting on the shelf, and he goes somewhere and does something else. And after a while he comes back and, "Whoa, the water's gotten clear. What happened?" "Oh, I just left it alone." When you just leave it alone, it settles by itself and its natural clarity comes out. So in the same way, really what we're doing in this meditation, just leave it alone. Just let it be. It settles by itself. It settles by itself. And that's settling because the mind and body are connected. The mind tends to settle and the body tends to settle. And that's measurable. The body is settling into, you know, this profound state of restful alertness, which is very healing. It's very, you know, that feeling of silence you're talking about. It's not just abstract. It's not just mental. It's really in the body. It's like in our bones. It's in our metabolic functioning. And that's, in a sense, that's how it carries over into the rest of the day. And as you keep doing this, and hopefully, you know, sitting down, ideally every day for a little while at home, more and more you feel that silence in your bones. You feel that silence in your body as you're going, you know, through activity and dealing with things. You're more and more anchored in that silence. Now, one thing for you is just kind of the etiquette of doing this in a group is that if you feel something that makes you feel like speaking out during the session, it's better not to. Okay?
Oh no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. So you don't want to say stuff out loud. And for other people, if someone happens to say something out loud, guess what that is? What is it? Is it?
Experience?
It's thank you. Right. It's just another experience.
If you can't control your voice, that's really bad.
Yeah. But all the stuff in time gets more settled, you know. Yeah. But what we can't, so we can you're right. We can control, hopefully, our own actions and our own speech. We can't control our experience. So when something like you're sitting there meditating and someone, you know, I noticed it was a particularly quiet night here tonight.
Yeah.
Usually there's traffic outside, someone with a motorcycle, airplanes overhead from SMO, the dog barking. There was like nothing tonight. So, you know, you provided a little bit, stirred things up a little bit for people. Great, perfect. You know, there's got to be something. There's got to be some grist for the mill. Right? There's got to be something for people who goes, "Oh man, that's a problem." And oh no, it's not. Yeah.
I know I'm kind of a newbie about this, so it's probably.
You keep saying that. You've been saying that
No,
for,
I'm a very intelligent
what is this,
person.
like a year, 2 years?
How?
You've been calling yourself a newbie?
I don't
You
know,
can
but
stop now.
I do have have a lot of ambivalence and I have a lot of questions, and
Good.
one of the things is that, you know, obviously there's no control,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe you about these kinds of experiences, but why is there any causality involved in why sometimes you just kind of do go there, and sometimes
You know, when you say sometimes you go there,
sometimes
go where? What do you mean?
You sense that you've, you know, experienced some relaxation, and that's been a very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the very next time, you kind of don't.
Right. And let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced in meditation, you might have a lot of thoughts, a lot of activity, like mind's very busy and you're thinking, oh, this is one of these not very satisfying sessions. And then you come out and you realize, maybe it's time to come out and you realize, man, I don't want to open my eyes.
That's out.
Yeah, sometimes, right? So there's a couple of things here. First thing is your question. Why is it that sometimes we just feel deeply, deeply settled and sometimes less? I was saying a minute ago that settling down is physiological as well as mental. And the physiology is always changing. You know, it's sometimes, it's just the way it is. Like sometimes you know, everything's like that. Sometimes some nights you sleep better than other nights. Right? It's just one of many things that are out of our control. You weren't here last time. Were you here last time? 2 weeks ago? I think it was last time when Sam was here, and Sam was talking about, maybe it was the time before. He was talking about having like a deep, deep blissful experience, deep blissful meditation, and then finding himself next time, okay, I want to get back to that.
That was me.
That happened. That was definitely Sam was talking about that.
To a lot of people.
Yeah, it's everyone, right? Everyone this is, as Maharishi used to say, it's in the standard catalog of experiences. So it's a good one for us to talk about. It's very natural because just sometimes, again, it's the physiology. It's the most important thing to understand about this is when you have one of these really deep, just blissful meditations, and then another time you don't, there's a tendency to think, oh, that time I did it right, and that time I did it wrong, or I did it less right.
I'm just saying that there's no real known causality, not just you, but it just
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, everything's got causality, but it's just too, there's that thing that Einstein's supposed to have said that God does not play dice with the universe, right? And I always felt that even that in that quote, the way he formulated it there is not quite right, because the implication is that throwing dice is a random activity. It's not. It's 100% causality, but what we call random is just when the causality is so subtle and complex that we can't trace it all. But right, if we could with God's mind, some all-knowing mind, know exactly the starting position of the dice in the hand, exactly the coefficient of drag, between the skin and the dice, the amount of moisture, perspiration, right, the exact trajectory and the velocity and the barometric pressure and the coefficient of drag on the table, right? We can know exactly how the dice are going to fall. It's 100% cause and effect. Everything's cause and effect, but it's way too subtle and complex for us to calculate. That's what we call random. It's not really random. Okay. So in the same way, just everything going on in your body. What did you have for lunch? How's your digestion? Who knows? And also, there is the one thing, which is the physiological settling down. And then a second thing, which is the subjective evaluation of the settling down, which is not necessarily reliable. Some of you have heard me tell this story, but I'm going to tell it again. This is one I have to tell over and over, I find. My old friend Keith Wallace, Dr. Robert Keith Wallace of UCLA, who back in the late 60s, early 70s teamed up with Herbert Benson from Harvard Medical School. They did some of the early path-breaking work on the neurophysiology of meditation. And they established that the mind and body settle down to this, deep state of restful alertness, restful hypometabolic, an alert hypometabolic state. And Keith, being a meditator himself, informally at the end of the sessions, as he was taking the EEG leads off of people's scalps, would ask them, how was that session? And sometimes they would say, oh, it was great bliss, Satchit Ananda. It was like, whoa, I was totally there. And somebody would say, oh no, it was just totally choppy, never settled down. Don't count this one. It'll throw off your averages. And then Keith would look at the numbers, would look at what the machines were telling them, the EEG and the GSR and the arterial lactate level and all that. And what he found was that in both cases, no matter what the person said, physiologically the settling down is about the same. Please remember this when you're practicing at home. It's such a helpful thing to know. Not only do we not control what's going on, we don't even freaking know what's going on. Okay, not only are we in the passenger seat, we're in the passenger seat, we're blindfolded. So just give up. Just give up to whatever's going on. And it can seem a big deal. Oh man, I'm having a bad meditation. This is a long-term thing. And what we find is over the long term, the meditation tends to go in a certain direction. In general, we're tending toward more settling, more clarity about that. And in a way, even that's not important. The thing that's really important that we really do notice long term, and I'm seeing it, I've been seeing it with everyone here as you continue to come back, is that how you are the other 23 and a half hours of the day, right? You notice
I
that?
do notice that.
Yes. That is, and that's where the rubber meets the road. That's what this is for. Experiences in meditation, it's almost kind of a necessary evil, so to speak, right? The whole point is, this is where enlightenment happens. This is where awakening happens in the world, not sitting with your eyes closed. Sitting with your eyes closed is where you pick up the scent. You pick up the scent, here's the scent of the roses. And then the important thing is you go back out into the world, out into the field, and you start, oh, the rose is here, it's here, it's here, it's here. It's what in Buddhism, what they call the one taste. The point of meditation is there, you get that one taste, you get it in its kind of concentrated form. And then you start to pick up, oh, that one taste that runs through everything. And becomes more and more clear, it is everything. Eventually you realize it's all there is. All of this is made out of that. So this is where it has to happen. It's in the waking state. And where it happens is in your actions. You notice that your actions are more smooth.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And that's how we all are. That's how we all are.
You
But
can ask me about her actions.
yeah. Oh, what? No, can I? Because no, seriously.
I'm the one who has to go home with you.
Yeah, exactly. And seriously, often, and we find this in marriages and relationships. Often, it's the people who live with you, the people who are close to you, will often see it before you do. Some of you.
Sometimes not.
Sometimes not. Yeah, sometimes not. We're human beings, and we've got a lot of old habits and rituals and things that we've had a lot of practice doing. But somehow, even and even as we continue, it's not we're going to become someone else. We're not all going to become this saintly person. But what does happen is that even to the degree to which all the old habits and the old personality traits and all that persist, it's like there's more and more space around them. Does that ring a bell for you? Right? There's more space around them. We're less closed in. It becomes clearer and clearer that we're not defined by them. Those are ways that we function, but it's not what we are. It becomes more and more clear that we are awareness. We are open space. We are this aware open space. We are this beingness within which all this stuff happens, all this functioning happens, and some of the functioning is what we, in the conventional world called, Dean or Sue Ellen, or, and it functions in a certain way, and that way, and the ways it functions tend to become smoother and more harmonious to some degree. But even if they didn't change at all, more and more there's just that space around it, more and more less claustrophobia connected with being that. More and more whatever's there is, the old wonderful old poetic image from the old text. More and more, it's no longer like whatever's going on, however we're acting. It's no longer like a line being carved in the rock. More and more, it's just a line being carved in the water. Eventually, maybe it becomes like a line carved in the air. And that really does happen. That really does happen. As you may have noticed,
Can this help with your mental health and well-being?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you have a mental illness?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in a way, that's everything we've been talking about. We all more or less have mental illness, just, in varying degrees.
Some people have it more severe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Serious.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it just tends to lighten up. And obviously, if you have, as you say, when someone has a severe mental illness, then of course they need to take proper care, and you need to get the professional help. And, if the professionals are telling you take this therapy or take this medication or whatever it is, we don't want to say, oh, now we're meditating, and so this is a substitute for, we can ignore all the, professional expert advice. About anything, whether it's our mental health or our finances. Oh, now I'm meditating, now I know which stocks to pick, like playing pin the tail on the donkey. Intuition, have you noticed intuition does get better? I mean, I have. It's one of the things I love about, more and more what my life is like is just there's less thinking about stuff, less the figuring out, oh, if I do this, I just used to agonize over decisions, and just trying to figure out, like playing a chess game and trying to figure out everything, 17 moves ahead. Well, if this guy goes here and that goes, I get head pressure. And more it's just, which I imagine is in fact actually the way that the really great masters play chess, by the way. They're not agonizing, calculating everything. There's just more of a sitting back. You get this overall feel of the forces, the way they're moving across the board. And you can feel, oh, this thing's, I think I should go through there. Have you noticed that? Like when there's a decision to make, it's like when you're thinking about doing this or doing this, when you put your attention on this one, it feels like resistance, feels like congestion, or over here feels like congestion, and over here it feels like opening. I think that's what the story of Moses going through the Red Sea is about.
It's more like allowing life to show me.
Yeah.
It's like not taking the decision ahead of time, not wanting to plan.
Yeah.
I've been a person that has taught people goals and, you know, the whole structure about
Yeah.
where to go with. And now I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, of course, to some degree, we
Yeah.
need goals, we need structure,
But not,
but it all gets, even with goals and structure, it gets lighter.
and it manifests almost
Yeah.
like right there and then right there.
Yeah.
Like picking flowers almost, not always.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we don't resist the stuff.
Yeah, the surprise is, yeah, there's always gonna be this, you know, what's the old cliche, you know, life is what happened while you were making other plans,
The Beatles.
you know?
Right.
And you're, you know, because the plans are just in here. Their plans are just these thoughts, and life happens in this much bigger space outside of our skull. You know, we're just, you know, all our thinking about is just this little model of it. You know, when I was a kid, I don't know if anyone does this anymore. When I was a kid, when remember we used to make models, those Revell models, model airplanes and stuff out of plastic, and you'd make a model airplane. It wasn't a real airplane. It was a real model. But the real airplane was made out of, I don't know, aluminum and steel and rubber and whatever. The model of it was something like the real one, but smaller and made out of something else. It was made out of plastic and glue. So our models of the world are made out of, they're smaller than the world, smaller than the reality, and it's made out of something totally different. It's made out of thoughts. It's not the thing. And it's fine to do that. We have to do that, but I think it's useful to know the difference. Don't take your thoughts too seriously. Don't mistake your thoughts for reality. You know, more and that becomes clearer, I find. It's just it's like you get fooled less by your own thoughts. And partly it's because there's less fixation. Less fixation. In one sense, from one perspective, what we're doing here in meditation is an exercise in non-fixation. Non-fixation. You know, usually in any given moment, we could say there's like 360 degrees of experience that's available to us. And in most moments, we're selecting out, you know, like something 3 or 4 or 5 degrees and kind of ignoring, just not even being aware of the other, whatever, 355 degrees. Right? Because there's a part that we're working with, or we've decided that this is important, or this part's really enjoyable. This is the movie I'm watching, or it's really unenjoyable. Oh, this is the whatever, the politician that's driving me crazy, or whatever it is. We fixate on that and we don't see the rest. Now, when we meditate, we're not in this way, in this natural, non-effort, non-concentrating way. We're just being. In a sense, we're just settling back, and the mind is kind of opening into its natural kind of 360 degree, kind of global openness. Spacious, yes, into its own natural spaciousness. And you notice that feels good. And that's what we call a good meditation, subjectively good meditation, is when with a little more clarity perhaps than usual, we settle into that spaciousness, that global spaciousness. And it feels good because it's not constricted. It's like taking off a tight shoe.
I think that what we're calling here tonight a bad meditation is often much, much more valuable than a good meditation.
Yeah, a so-called bad meditation is,
You could be working with stuff in a bad meditation that has brought you to a much deeper level, and so you're very agitated. or you're realizing the effect of something that you've done, and it's just hit you. And so you're learning from all that. And I've been in meditation sessions with hundreds of people,
Mm-hmm.
and people are crying, and people are,
Right.
it's called kriyas, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's very disturbing for people sitting around them if you let them disturb you, as opposed to it just being.
Yeah, if you decide that that's, if you decide that that's a problem. If you remember, as we were saying before, oh, okay, what is that? For the other person sitting next to them, oh, okay, it's a sound. Okay, now I had a thought about the sound. It's a sound, that's just a thing passing through my screen of awareness. Then maybe I had a thought about the sound. Maybe I had an emotion about it. Maybe I felt resentment. Okay, that's just another thing passing through. You let it go. You let it pass through. But I think your primary point here is very well taken, and it's a thing we do frequently talk about here, which is what you call the kriyas, or the release of the samskaras, or the unwind. I like the way this Lama that I used to study with talked about. He said it's like the nervous system as it accumulates all the stresses and traumas. It's like winding up a rubber band, and then in the openness, the spacious, relaxed spaciousness of meditation, it's like putting the twisted up rubber band on a bare tabletop. It's going to naturally unwind itself, and that's, as you say, that's a very good thing. It's a very valuable thing. As it's in the process of doing that, it's going to tend to dance and jerk around. So sometimes that's physically these kriyas, these movements. Sometimes it'll come out as a sudden change in the breath, a sudden intake of breath, or a sudden mood change, or laughing or crying or something like that. And that's all value. It's all valuable. The thing is, Mother Nature's running the whole thing. And when it's time for us to just be settled deeply and things get very quiet, Mother Nature's running that. And then when, as a result of that, and this is getting back to, in a way, what we were talking about before, where you have what you call a quote-unquote good meditation, a settled, subjectively enjoyable one. It may well be that as a result of that deep settling, a bunch of the old stresses have gotten loosened up. So then the next time you sit, or the next 19 times you sit, there's a lot of stuff popping. Or it could be the first 5 minutes of a given session. Oh, I feel so deep. And then as a result, all this stuff's loosened up, and then things are popping. The rubber band's really dancing around. And then you might, and that's when this understanding is very important, because then you might think, gee, I was doing this right for the first 5 minutes, now I must be doing something wrong, and then you try to correct it, and then you're completely screwed up. So it's really, really important to understand that. And that to know that the direction that all this is going in is clearing. All this stuff's getting, we were saying before, where the real awakening happens is not in the meditation, it's in the walking around. And this clearing that happens through this release of stress in meditation, that's allowing this to take place in activity, in the waking state, that to come out with more clarity, more spaciousness.
Efficiency. Efficiency is the term.
Sufficiency?
Efficiency.
Efficiency.
Efficient.
Yeah, efficiency. Yeah, absolutely. When you see more clearly what's what, because you're less hypnotized by your own thoughts about what's what, you see more clearly what's actually what, and you see more clearly what's to be done about it, and how to do that in the most effective way, and with the least collateral damage to yourself and others. That's efficiency. Absolutely. Oh, I wanted to, yes, thank you. Kat asked me maybe last time, privately, was not in the session, something that I wanted to bring up, because other people may also have this, or some versions of this. She was asking about tinnitus. Sometimes people pronounce it tinnitus, ringing in the ears, which for some people can become just chronic, it's there all the time. And about meditating with that. And I have a little bit of that myself. It's just, it comes and goes, and it's pretty mild, so I've been pretty lucky with that. But you know, you hang around long enough, there's stuff. I've got stuff in my eyes that doesn't go away. I've got some stuff I didn't know the names of until a few years ago, till they started happening to me. I got a new one this year called I never heard of, called a macular pucker.
Pucker.
Sounds made up, doesn't it? Macular pucker.
Sounds like something that would happen in outer space.
Yeah, like the bending of the time warp. I don't know. Anyways, pretty neat. What it means is if I look at a piece of graph paper with my left eye, it looks fine, and if I look with my right eye, the lines go. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's like literal.
Yeah. And I'm looking with both eyes, they're kind of compromising. And once you have it, there's nothing they can do about it, and it doesn't get better. So stuff is there. And if you hang around long enough, you know, stuff tends to be there in various organs of the senses and organs of the body. You know, some people have, pain in parts of their bodies that doesn't go away. Some people have pain that's there all the time. So, and you'll hear people give you various advice about this. And I know Kat had been given, people had told her to, what did they told you about that?
Well, I said concentrate on it, but what I really meant was just incorporate it into like something you're aware of,
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Yeah, good. So I like what I hear you doing there, which is you started with some understanding,
Yeah.
and then well, first of all, the first thing you said was already way more insightful than what I think many people would try to do, which is try to block it out, try to get rid of it, right? Try to.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. Yeah. You'll find out pretty quickly that doesn't work. So then the next thing would be, okay, if I'm going to not try to block it out, what we might think of is, okay, what's the alternative to that? And the language you use, concentrate on it. But then pretty quickly you realize, no, even that understanding or that expression needs refining. Okay? Because to try to block it out is to make it special. It's anything we try to block out, that's a form of fixation. Oh, it's bad, it shouldn't be here. That's a form of fixation. Losing, and then that's a tendency to lose our 360-degree spaciousness because we're working with this, we're fixating on this 5 degrees we're trying to get rid of. Now to try to concentrate on it is also a form of fixation. I'm going to just put my attention on these 5 degrees to try to concentrate on it. So then your insight and your expression got clearer. Oh, just as you said, try to incorporate it.
Yeah.
Try to make it part of just the 360-degree global picture. And now I want to go one better. I want to clarify it a little bit better. It's if you really take a look at what's going on, I think you'll realize it's not even, okay, I'm going to try to incorporate it, or I'm going to incorporate it. I'm going to make it part of the picture. It is part of the picture. You hear what I'm saying? You see the distinction? You know, whatever's going on is always just part of the tapestry. It's part of the symphony. It's part of the symphony. And it's the symphony that's being played by God or the universe or Mother Nature, you know, it's out of our control. You know, there's a lot in the spiritual world or the meditative world of people saying, just, you know, let it go, let it be there. And I say that sometimes, but I use those expressions less and less, because even to say, let it go or let it be there, is in a way that's arrogant. In a way that's still implying that we've got a freaking choice, right? I mean, what happens if we don't let it be there? Hey, it's still there. It's still there. The only difference is whether we're banging our head against it, whether we're resisting it. So we just let it be there in the sense that we recognize it's part of the picture, and no matter what's there in the picture, we can settle into that space within which the whole picture happens. No matter what's happening in the symphony at this moment, we can abide as the silence within which the symphony happens. And when I say silence, you know, I know that's a, you know, a poignant term for you. There's a fantastic book by John Cage, great 20th century avant-garde composer. He did cool things like composing music by casting the I Ching, or by taking a fountain pen and flinging ink on the music staff and so forth. And so he wrote this great book about music, and the book is called Silence, right? And at one point in the book, he says the real silence is not, what's the word he uses? It's not auditory, or he says it's the true silence is not sonic. It's the awareness. It's a turning within to the real silence, which is here no matter what's going on within the field of hearing. You know, what we keep finding out, what we keep getting clearer and clearer about here, in the simplicity of this kind of meditation, is that we're not trying to silence the mind. We don't have to silence the mind. You know, you've seen that. I know you've seen that. That people think, oh, I have to get rid of the thoughts to experience inner peace, inner silence, which is like trying to flatten out all the waves on the surface of the ocean, which is just, you know, doesn't work. There's just too much to do, and the harder we work at it, the more we stir up the water. But instead, we allow gravity to pull us down. We discover a foot or two below the surface, the water is always already silent, right? We were trying to create mental silence, make the mind silent. The mind doesn't have to be silent because awareness is silent. Mind means thinking. Mind is the thinking capacity, and that's always going to be, the waves are supposed to be there on the surface. They're always going to be there. But the silence, which is beneath that, is always there right now, and we can always sink into it. Even as this is going on up there somewhere. Now, the field of sound is the same thing as the field of thinking. The true silence, which is awareness, is not interrupted or diminished by the presence of sound, whether it's the sound of the traffic going by or the sound of, you know, which we think of as outside our ears, or the sound of the tinnitus, which we think of as inside our ears, inside our skull.
That sounds very sturdy, not fragile, anti-fragile. It's very sturdy.
Yeah. It's the only thing that's sturdy. Because everything else is fragile. Everything passes away. Everything, this planet will be gone. There will be a day when, you know, just like at the end of Planet of the Apes, the Statue of Liberty is going to be a piece of wreckage on the beach. You know, there will be a day when this body is dust. There will be a day when no one remembers the United States of America. There will be a day when there's no Rocky Mountains. That stuff's all ephemeral. But the space, the empty space of beingness, the empty space of awareness within which all these planets and solar systems and nations and empires rise and fall, is the same right now as it will be then, in millions of years from now, and as it was millions of years ago. And as it will be on the day when you say, oh, now I'm awake, now I'm enlightened, now I'm experiencing that boundless silence, that boundless okayness that I read about in the books. Okay, that silence is the same right now. And you can always access it right now. So it's always right here. It's never more than one thought away, we could say.
I think that often, though, people who meditate regularly,
Mm-hmm.
or people who meditate really have devoted their lives to it, I think pretty much know this, but a falsehood that I think needs to be dispelled,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn it eventually, is that just because you're doing a practice, this practice, it doesn't mean you're not going to become very sad. It doesn't mean you're not going to become very depressed. It doesn't mean that you're not going to suffer great pain of loss, etc. What came to mind before I said this was Bernie Glassman. You know who Bernie Glassman was?
Yeah.
And Bernie Glassman was a really great meditation teacher out of New York originally, who the last several years of his life lived as a stroke victim.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife wrote about him a lot, or sometimes, not a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and talked about how depressed he became,
Mm-hmm.
that he didn't have use of his body, but he once had use of his body. And he was such a vibrant...
You know, do me a favor, just speak up a little so the...
He was a very
Our
vibrant
YouTube
person. He
friends
did all
can hear
sorts
you.
of things. He used to run the Zen Center here in LA, ran the Zen Center
Yeah.
in New York at the same time.
Right. This is Bernie Glassman we're talking about.
Bernie Glassman. And he would hold silent retreats for 30 days on the Bowery in New York when it was the Bowery.
Mm-hmm.
And, not expensive apartments as it is now,
Mm-hmm.
when he would do the same thing in Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did
Yeah, I had friends who went to Auschwitz with Bernie.
He did.
Yeah.
tremendous things. And then when he was not able to do that anymore and just sort of sit there, and became very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
But he was
How old
aware.
was he?
He died just a few weeks ago, and he was about 79, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he had a stroke when he was maybe 75.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to people at 75 years of age,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I think what I read about his experience is that he was aware of his depression,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of his depression, this is going to sound flighty, but instead of his depression making him depressed, he experienced his depression as another stage of his life.
Yeah. 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 Okay, YouTubers, if the mic didn't pick that up, that's important. You're saying that what Bernie Glassman apparently experienced is that even though depression was there, say it again. It
It didn't make him depressed.
didn't make him depressed. It didn't make, and this is, no, it's such a good point, and it's exactly what we were saying before, which is, look, shit happens. And there is this kind of starry-eyed thing that, oh, now we're meditating, now we're doing a spiritual practice, shit's not going to happen to us. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But, as a teacher of mine used to say, shit happens, and if you don't learn how to let go of it, you wind up covered in shit. Right? And I would even rephrase that a little bit. Shit happens, and if you don't realize, if you don't wake up to what you are, which is this spaciousness, then you'll think it's you that's covered in the shit. you know. So,
Or is essentially everything?
yeah.
Or is essentially everything?
Yeah, so there's no guarantee against any particular thing happening. You know, no guarantee anything can happen to anyone. Because it's like in a movie, anything can happen to any character in the movie. Any character in the movie can be walking along one day, and all of a sudden, you know, the alligator pulls you down into the swamp. The difference is, are you convinced, and I don't mean just intellectually convinced, I mean experientially. Are you experientially convinced that are you fixated on this thing that you think is you, this body and this cluster of thoughts and feelings and personal history, all of which we usually call Ira or Bernie or Dean, and think, oh, that's me, the character, so to speak, in the movie? Or have we, at least with some greater or lesser degree of clarity, have we found out, oh, I'm not any character in the movie, I'm the screen. I'm the open space on which the movie takes place. And that's what it comes down to. With what degree of clarity have you arrived at that experiential insight? Because anything can happen. You can have a stroke. You know, Ram Dass, you know, famously when he had his stroke, and you know, he as he said, you know, all those years I'd been Mr. Spiritual, I was Mr. LSD, and then Mr. Meditation and devotion and yoga and all that. He said, and he had his stroke and came this close to death, and he said, I didn't have a single spiritual thought. He said, I flunked the test. And I have so much admiration for his honesty about that, you know, and for his realizing, okay, but I get a second chance. I'm gonna, apparently, you know, he didn't die. He said, get to stay around for a while and take the exam again. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, there is a beautiful, beautiful short documentary.
He says he discovered how much he was being loved
Yeah.
with the people that were around him.
Yeah.
It was right there. He
Yeah.
didn't-
This film, and I believe it's on. I think it's on Netflix now.
yes.
Yeah, and really, if you haven't seen this, and even if you have, watch it again. It's called Ram Dass Coming Home, Going Home, Coming Home, one of those. Actually, you know, because Yaffa is a documentary filmmaker, so we get invited to a lot of these screenings. And when it first was completed, we went to a screening with the filmmakers, the editor and the composer and the producer and the director, and they were all there for the Q&A afterward. And I gotta wrap this up. And most of them had no involvement in spirituality or meditation. They were filmmakers on an assignment. And they went out to Maui, where he lives, and they got there. And as they were standing there in the front of the theater describing this, you could see them like just searching for the words. It was so moving. And then one of them said, yeah, we came in and we were setting up the lights and the mics, and I sat down and Ram Dass was there, and I started talking with them. And then after a couple of minutes, I realized I was being completely loved, something like completely seen and completely loved, and that had never happened to me before. And you could just see the way that this had affected their life. They'd had the karma or whatever to pull that assignment. That was great. So we're going to wrap up because it's time for tea and cookies, and that is inviolable. So next session will be January 1st, our New Year's meditation, same time, same place. And I'll be sending out the notice about the retreat. And East Coast folks, people in the Northeast, this Sunday, December 23rd, 9 a.m., Aikido Schools of New Jersey in Roselle Park. The address and info are on my website. So may all beings swiftly realize that they're not the character in the movie. They are the boundless freedom of the open screen. And thus may the true happiness, the true freedom prevail, and thus may that root of all conflict evaporate and peace prevail throughout the universe. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.